I'm Ben Fong-Torres, and for years and years and years at Rolling Stone and on KSAN on Sundays, we played your music. I loved your music. Diane and I love you, and so no, what a great honor to be with you. By way of introduction, here are some of the songs you might hear today. I didn't get the sound check, but He's a Rebel, He's Sure the Boy I Love, Today I Met the Boy I'm Gonna Marry, and Wait Till My Bobby Gets Home. And speaking of Bobby, there's also Zippity Doo-Dah by Bobby Sox and the Blue Jeans, of which Darlene was lead singer. And here in August, she probably will not, but I wish she would sing Christmas Baby, Please Come Home.
Got about 6 more months.
Dang. And Diane and I have seen you do that for at least 25 of the 27 years.
Yes.
You've done it on David Letterman, including the repeat. That one year there was a writer's strike.
Right.
Those are a few of the hundreds of songs our star Stern Grove performer has sung or sung backup on. That was much of her life, as documented in her book, My Name is Love, and in the recent film, 20 Feet From Stardom. Today, she is up where she belongs, up front. So please welcome one more time a true musical legend, Darlene Love.
Thank you.
All right. First question is, in your book, which was published back in 1998 originally, you concluded that it might be time to wrap things up since you were headed for the big 6-0 in about 3 years. That was 16 years ago. What happened?
Well, I'm one of those never give up. And I didn't feel like that I had reached my pinnacle of where I was trying to go. I had no idea it was going all the way to the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
But you never know where your careers are, going to take you. And I enjoy so much singing. I do believe it's a gift from God, and I think you should use it and you should share it as long as you possibly can. So I figured at 60, it wasn't enough. So I just had my 73rd birthday a couple of weeks ago. And stronger than ever, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this, however long I can, and how long you guys want me.
Forever. The audience had a couple of questions for you that I would pose, and one of them was, how has 20 Feet From Stardom changed your life?
It hasn't changed my life that much. What it has really done, it has got people to know who I am and how long I've been in this business and what I've been doing for the first 10, 15 years of my career. I was a backup singer, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. The people that I worked with were just as excited about me being on their records as I was being on those. One of the first artists I ever worked with was Sam Cooke. I was real excited about working with him. And then, all of the people that I worked for, it was a surprise for me. Especially like when I worked with Elvis. I mean, I never thought I'd ever work with Elvis. And I was a teenage girl going to the movies to see Elvis, and never thought I'd be up there singing with him all these years later.
And this is in the comeback special.
1968 comeback special, right.
Oh, man.
And then I went on to work with Tom Jones, and not only did I work with him, but we went all over the world with Tom Jones.
Yeah.
And that was almost 2.5 years we worked with him. So we'd go to work for people, and they would only want us for like, a couple of months, and then they'd keep us for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I remember working with Sammy Davis Jr., and he said, just a couple of shows, girls, just a couple of shows. And 2 years later, we were still doing a couple of shows.
Let's bounce back a little while to when you were in Texas, in San Antonio.
Yes.
You were born in L.A. Your father was a church preacher.
Yes.
Back to L.A., but in Texas, when you actually began to sing with a group called the Wailers.
Right.
Right.
Girl
then,
group.
The Echoes.
Yes.
Actually did a single.
Then right. I was with them for about 15 minutes.
Blossoms.
Yes.
Was the main group.
Right.
And in fact, in the documentary, 20 Feet, one of them says they were kind of the sweet-sounding group, and then Darlene came along. Whee! But do you agree with that? That
Yeah, well, they did have a nice, quiet sound, but they heard me sing at a church wedding, and I auditioned to get in the group, and I made it, and it did completely change their sound because my background was all gospel, and they were Methodist. Nothing's wrong with that. Catholic. They wasn't singing like what we were singing.
There was a member of the audience who asked me to pose the question about how you felt about a song that was done by the Crystals. He hit me, it felt like a kiss. And I said, no, she was never a part of the Crystals. But the thing about Phil Spector, among his legacies in life, is that he confused everything and everybody in his Gold Star studio. He had a group called the Crystals who were doing all right. They had a couple of chart items, and then they were not available for our session, so being the impatient Phil Spector we know and love, he said, you get in there and sing this song. You.
Yes,
Specifically.
he
And
did.
so
That's how I met him.
her first hit was as part of a group that she wasn't a part of.
Right.
It was you and the Blossoms.
It was me and the Blossoms.
Tanita and Jean.
Right.
Were singing on it? Okay.
Yes.
And it comes out as the Crystals, and it's a big hit. It's on the radio as the Crystals are on the road, not aware of it.
Right.
Then they wound up, I think we saw this on the film.
Yes.
They had to lip sync to Darlene Love.
Right.
And it happened not once, twice.
Yes. Well, it happened several times. It was because the Crystals lived in New York, and like you said, and they were very young. They were like 14, 15 years old. And they could not fly back and forth to New York California, when Phil Spector was ready to sing with them, to do the session. And so he hired the Blossoms. Like you said, not one time, but several times. Yeah. He's a Rebel I wasn't so upset about, because when I went in to sing He's a Rebel, I knew it was going to be a Crystal record. I didn't know it was going to #1, though. And that sold over 3 or 4 or 5 million records. And after that, of course, he would use my voice again because to keep the same sound. Yeah. And the next record I did was He's Sure the Boy I Love, but it was supposed to be a Darlene Love record. But tootling along in my car, going down the street, I hear the disc jockey say, here's the next song by the Crystals. And I went, wow, did they come in and record and I didn't know? No, it was He's Sure the Boy I Love. And he made that their second, I can't wait to do this movie so I can show people what I did to Phil when I found out
we have to wait.
He had put their names on that record.
I don't want to get you in a lousy mood before you do a show. So
I think that's kind of hard to do.
We'll keep this. We'll keep the Phil Spector stuff to a minimum. But let's just say you finally had enough, and the contract was over. You left. You signed with Gamble and Huff. Great producers. Man, the sound of Philadelphia. And then what happens?
I was in Philadelphia with my manager. I'd gotten to the point where I said, I'm not signing anything else until my lawyer sees it, and everybody signs on the line, and that's what we did with that contract with Philadelphia International. And after being in Philadelphia for about 3 or 4 days, I get this call from the record producers, and they said they wanted to talk to me. Well, what they talked to me about, they had signed over my contract back to Phil Spector. That's what I said. But, it was like, what I found out later, we had both had the same lawyers. Phil Spector had the same lawyer that Gamble and Huff had, and that if you have all this money, to fight, which we didn't, and it was, they really can't do that. It's really not legal to do that, to have the same lawyer. So there I was, stuck again for another 7 years, but I had news for him.
Watch the movie. Fortunately, you had so many fans, so many people who supported you and hired you. And so you toured with, among others, the Righteous Brothers and Dionne Warwick.
Yes.
For a good number of years. You had a friend in Lou Adler.
Yes, one of my best friends in the business. He was. He was, when I was having hard times, and which we do, entertainers do have hard times like everybody else. I've been on the road, and when I came back home, there just wasn't any work for me. Background singers had taken our place, and, they didn't want us anymore. So I said, well, what can I do? I had 3 sons. I had to make a living. I had a girlfriend who had a cleaners. She let me work in her cleaners. And I started doing day work in Beverly Hills, which, ended up, nobody knew who I was. And I was cleaning these people's houses and, tootling along. It was Christmas time, and Christmas Baby Please Come Home came on the radio while I was cleaning this lady's bathroom. And I went, okay, that's a sign. I'm not supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be singing. And I never, even though things were hard at first, I just never looked back. Just said, I'm supposed to be singing, and that's what I'm going to do. And I've never asked anybody for help. One thing, people never thought I needed help because I never walked around with this, oh, poor me.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I going to do now?
Right.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to feed my kids.
Even that sounds great.
And
Even your whining is pitch perfect.
And so I actually started Lou Adler with the Blossoms. We started Lou Adler and Herb Albert in this business. We used to work for them till our tongues were hanging out of our mouths.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, one day, we'll pay you back. Anytime you ever need anything, we will pay you back. And Lou Adler and Herb Albert became two of the greatest producers of the 60s and the 70s. Yeah. And I just said, well, I just got to ask him. I'm at the point where I can't do anything else for myself. So I picked up the phone. I called Lou. And number one, he was shocked to find out I was in need. And he just said, how much do you need? And I told him how much. He said, okay, you got it. And the check was in the mail. But the funny part about it was his accountant called me to ask me, where he had to send the check and all of that. And he said, now we need to talk about how you're going to pay him back. And I went, well, we didn't talk about that. And I don't know, I have to call Lou. I wasn't at the point where I said I wouldn't pay him back, but we just hadn't talked about it. So I called Lou and I said, your bookkeeper wants to know, how I'm going to pay you back and when, and it was going to set up. He said, I didn't tell that blankety blank man to asked you anything about paying me back. I would never think about having you pay me back. So that's my story about Lou Adler, and today he is still one of my best friends.
Then when the jobs stopped coming, as you say, it was a struggle, besides cleaning houses for a little while and working at a dry cleaner where you were once recognized by a woman, Fanita came in.
Yes, she came into the cleaners.
And there you are serving, giving her, looking at her check.
And see, I never have this thing about me that I feel like anything that I do is beneath me. I mean, I had to feed my kids, and so it wasn't no problem. I was happy my girlfriend had a cleaner so she could hire me. And one of the girls came in, because by that time I had left the Blossoms. And, I guess she looked at me and said, yeah, you thought you were going to make it, but now look at you. Look what you're doing. And unfortunately, I still love Fanita. I hold nothing against her. But she was telling everybody that, she's really down and out now. She's working at a cleaners, and I said, hey, I'm making a living. But it didn't last very long. That's how good God is. He took me there for a minute.
You can get back at her in the movie by casting the Crazy Eyes to play her. What I was getting to was the gig with the cruise line. You called, offered your services. Everywhere you went, people could not believe it. My God, it's Darlene Love in the main room tonight.
On the cruise ship, I didn't know what else to do, and I got this light went on in my head. I wonder if they have entertainment on cruise ships. I know nobody would dare tear me down once they heard me sing. Not only that, the owner of the cruise line, who they all knew Darlene Love, but they had never seen her or met her before, and I went down to the ship with all my stuff in my arm. This is me. These are my records. I need a job. They were on a cruise ship? I said, yes. Y'all pay money? Yes, I need a job. And actually, I worked on this Carnival Cruise Line for almost 3 years. And by the time I got off that ship, I was making as much money as the captain. Well, no,
and
that's
you
a
met
little
someone
overboard. No, and then that's where I met my husband. He was the chief steward, and so it was great. 30 years later,
yeah.
We're still married.
And around that time, too, I think, maybe 87 was your first time being invited by your buddy Paul Schaefer, who, by the way, join you sometimes on those bar mitzvah gigs.
Yeah, we did a lot of what they call rent gigs.
Yeah.
And Paul Schaefer was happy to play for me. And when we got ready to do Leader of the Pack, he came and he played Phil Spector. So one night he invited Dave to see the show. And Dave came to see Leader of the Pack. And he said one night, a couple of nights after he saw the show on his television show, he said, Paul, that's the greatest Christmas song I ever heard in my life. We need to get that girl, because they didn't remember my name, we need to get that girl on this show. And here it is 28 years later, and I'm still doing that one song on David Letterman.
Those connections continue to work and work. Steve
Yes.
Van Zandt, you've known
Yes.
for a long time.
Yes.
And now I believe there's an album project.
We are right now. We've already recorded 5 songs. We're in the studio now, original songs. It's great when you have somebody like Steve Van Zandt. He can call in favors. And we got some songs that some people are writing. Even Jimmy Webb, who doesn't even like doing it anymore, but when he called him and asked him to write me something, he said, right, I will. And Elvis Costello, I mean, he's already written some songs for me. And Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, who I started out with, they wrote He's Sure the Boy I Love. You know, they all wrote all those wonderful songs in the 60s, and we got a killer song that they wrote for me. So, you know, it's wonderful. You know, Bruce is going to write something for me, you know. It's nice to have friends like Steve Van Zandt.
Yes, yes.
He call in some favors.
Are you, a lot of people are sad that David Letterman is hanging it up as of next year. So we get at least this holiday
Right.
with you. Have you thought maybe you'll get a phone call from Jimmy Fallon or somebody else? Do you hope to continue to do the
I don't
Christmas
know.
thing?
Well, you know what? It all depends. It's not just David Letterman. It's Paul Schaefer. It's the Paul Schaefer band,
Yeah.
too, that makes that song so great. People don't even realize, even though we've done that song for it'll be 28 years this year, when the singers go in to rehearsal, he makes them rehearse that song like they've never sang it before. You know, it's in his office, he's on the piano, and then he goes into the studio with the band and does the same thing. And these are the same guys. And matter of fact, if they don't get a call from Paul's assistant saying the date is such and such with David Letterman, they start getting worried. They start calling, well, am I on it this year? Am I on it this year? So it has been like a family thing now. People really want to be there on the day that we do the David Letterman show. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do because, you know, this year, we did his show. That man is funny.
Please don't touch me.
Don't touch it?
Yeah.
You want me to touch you some more?
Just kidding, Darlene. Just, you know what we need if this goes away is a Darlene Love Christmas special on television.
Yes.
And we need a proper, think about Beautiful with Carole King and Barry and Cynthia
Yes.
and Jerry story. We need your story as a musical, a full-blown one, and not in
Well,
a small
you know,
club.
I was telling my husband, that we start thinking about the David Letterman show like around September, October, because December is right around the corner. And I told him, I said, we could call Paul and see. I have this idea, and if we're not going to be doing the David Letterman show, to do a big, gigantic Christmas show in in New York somewhere. And so I think that's a great idea. Nobody's going to play Christmas Baby like Paul Schaefer.
No.
I don't care what they do.
And that's clear. Oh, the costume,
Yes,
the snow,
yes.
the singer. Today we have Darlene Love all to ourselves here at Stern Grove Festival. So enjoy. At 2 o'clock. We'll meet again. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll see you in a little while.